So to find a fraction of an amount, there are a few different things I can think about or different ways I can do it. First of all, let's just ignore the bottom stuff here and think about this first question, 1/4 of 20. If you think you know that off the top of your head, see if you can work out how you knew it. What was it that your brain did to get you that answer? In short, all we have to do is a bit of division. So if I have a look, I'm going to show you something that a lot of adults don't even know. The divide symbol is just a fraction with no numbers. It's a line and then 2 dots. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. So if I look at a fraction, say 1/4, and my divide sign, can you see the similarity? It's basically like a fraction, but instead of numbers, there are dots to show that they could mean anything. So when I look at my fraction, it's actually all about division. It's saying that I've got one whole in 4 pieces. So my whole here is 20 somethings. It could be a bag of 20 sweets, it could be a bar of 20 somethings, it could be the number 20. But essentially, to find 1/4, all I need to do is split it into 4. So 20 divided by 4, that would be 5. I could do it just in my head like that. Or I might want to do it in a picture by sort of having a look at something like this and drawing out all my 20 pieces, and then I can split it into 4 groups. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 groups there, and each one has 5 in it. Or I might want to draw a bar model like this and think to myself, how many times will, what will go in 4 times, and it would be 5, like that. So now I know that 1/4 of my whole 20 is 5. And also a picture like this can be helpful, because then if I was thinking, right, well, if 1/4 is 5, that means 2/4 would be 10, 3/4 would be 15, or I could do that with this as well. So that's one way of doing it. Essentially, we're just doing division. So if I was to ask you these examples, 1/3 of 30, I'm dividing by 3, so that would be 1/3 of 30 would be 10. For 1/8 of 16, I'm dividing by 8, so 16 divided by 8 would be 2, so 1/8 of 16 is 2. And then 1/6 of 36, well, I'm dividing 36 by 6, so 1/6 of that is 6. And that's all well and good for these types of fractions, which are what we call unit fractions, where the numerator is 1. But sometimes we have what we call non-unit fractions, where the numerator is more than 1. And in that case, we've got an extra step to do. So if we know that 1/3 of 30 is 10 by dividing by 3, I then need to take my 10 and I need to times it by 2, because I've got 2/3, not just 1/3. So this time, that answer would be 20. Or if I know that 1/8 of 16 is 2, then that means 5/8 of 16 is 5 times that, which would be 10. So 5/8 of 16 would be 10. Or if 1/6 of 36 is just 6, then 3/6 of 36 is 3 times that amount, which would be 18. So these really are quite simple. It's just a case of remembering our key rule, that to find a fraction of an amount, we divide starting by the denominator, so divide by our denominator, and then times by our numerator. So to find 3/4 of a number, I would divide it by 4, then I times that answer by 3, because I'm seeing how many pieces I've split it into, which is 4, my denominator, and how many of those pieces I have, which is 3. So that is the rule you need to remember when doing questions like this. But I'm going to show you one other way you can do it as well. Another way we can do it is using a fraction chain. It allows you to do a few different things. So if I look at this, it looks a bit complicated, but don't be put off. I start by looking at a whole number. So let's say that I'm trying to find, I don't know. I might want to find 93 hundredths of 60. I could find any fraction using this method. So in my fraction train, I put my whole number in the middle. So if I'm trying to find something of 60, a fraction of 60, 60 goes in the middle. And now I follow the lines and work outwards. So I have to make sure I'm following a link. So I work out each one in turn. So 1/10 of 60 is 6, or I could start the other way. I could say 1/2 of 60 is 30. Now, if I know that 1/2 of 60 is 30, I can then go and find a quarter, which will be half of that again. So that would be 15. So now I know that 1/4 would be 1/4 of my whole was 15. So now I'm splitting in half again to make it even smaller. So 1/8 would be 7.5 or 7.5. Or if I had not just 1/4 but 3/4, we're timesing that by 3, which would give me 45. So I've got all now, just from working out from my whole, I know half of it, 1/4 of it, 1/8 of it, and 3/4 of it without too much trouble. Or I can work the other way. So if I started, I've already put my tenth in, I could then know that if 1/10 is 6, then 3/10 is 18, or 9/10. Now there's two ways I could do it. 9 is 3 times 3, so I could do 18 times 3. Or I could think to myself that if I take 1/10 away from the whole, so 6 away from 60, that would also give me the answer for 9/10. So 9/10 is now 54. If I know that, back to here now, because I've run out here, 1/10 would be 6, so 1/100th is going to be 10 times smaller than that, so 0.6, which means that 2/100ths is double that, so 1.2. Or if I know that 1/10 is 6th, 1/5 is twice as big, which would be 12, and then 2/5 would be twice as big again, which would be 24. 3/5 will be those two added together, 36, and 4/5 would be double that, or I could say this add this. You can sort of do whatever you like. I could do anything really, or I could even do the whole, take away 1/10. Oh, Nala, sorry. Gosh, oh, has she got a bird? Not sure, sorry. Or I could do, where was I? Yes, so if I'm trying to do 4/5, for me personally, I might double my 2/5, which would give me 48. So then from there, you can kind of work out anything. So I gave myself the example of 93/100ths. Well, I could do it in different ways. I could say, well, that's the same as 9/10 and 3/100. So 9/10 was 54, and then I need my extra 3/100ths. So that would be these two added together, added onto that. So 1.2 add 0.6 would be 1.8. So if I add 1.8 onto there, it would give me my final answer of 55.8. So I now know that 93/100ths of 60 is 55.8. Now I chose quite a tricky number there because I ended up with some decimals and some fractions, but sorry about my cats, I don't know what they're doing. But if you were to try to work out any fraction, a chain is quite a good thing, and it kind of shows you how you can take any fraction and work out the rest. So use that if you think it would be helpful. But the main thing to remember is that to work out our fraction, we divide by the denominator and then times by the numerator.